Okay. No. Hi, homeschool homies. It's me, Melissa, and I am here with a new video, choosing a curriculum. I know many of you have reached out asking about which curriculum you should use or how do you choose a curriculum, and hopefully this video will help you. Now, before we dive in, I just kind of want to give my PSA on choosing curriculum because it's such a big decision, right? It feels very hefty, and it feels very weighty, and it feels very overwhelming. And if you do a Google search of homeschool curriculum, like at least 11 billion show up, right? I mean, it's just ridiculous. There's so many to choose from. And if you ask any veteran homeschooler which homeschool curriculum to choose, then you will usually get very passionate answers of like, you have to use this one. If you want your kid to be smart and to succeed in life, this is the curriculum you have to use. Homeschoolers are very passionate about their curriculums. That's because they've had time to find the curriculum that they like, find the curriculum that works for their kids and for their family, and that they feel comfortable teaching themselves. So they, of course, are passionate about it. My number one advice when I am talking to new homeschoolers about which curriculum you want to use is that you need to find what works for you. Because what works for me and my kids and my family may not be the same thing that works for you. So when you're searching, I suggest that you, yes, you, find something that you are excited about, something that looks doable to you, something that you would feel comfortable teaching. Because if you are comfortable with the content, if you are comfortable with the way the material is presented, you will be able to successfully pass that on to your kids. Now, you're gonna have to make some tweaks, you're gonna have to, have some changes, considering your kids' learning styles and different things like that. But if you are comfortable with it and you are excited about it, it's going to come across to your kids as well. So when we started our homeschool journey, I went to a friend's house and she was like, oh, you're gonna love this curriculum. And she brought out her homeschool curriculum and I hated it. I was like, this is homeschooling. I don't want anything to do with this. Like, this looks impossible. This doesn't look like anything that I would want to do. And I instantly kind of like crumbled into a puddle of tears and was like, what am I going to do? But then, talking to a couple more parents, looking at a few more curriculums, I found something that I really loved and kind of spoke to me and that I was excited about. And then I was able to present that to my kids. And so we've made some tweaks along the way, having to change spelling curriculums or change, some math or some science or whatever. But for the most part, this has been our core curriculum that we've used for the past 11 years of homeschooling. And so just to say, like, take it with a grain of salt. When you ask someone about curriculum and they tell you, oh, this is the one, take it with a grain of salt. That works for them, that works for their family. Doesn't mean it will work for you. But there are so many options out there that I promise you, you will find something that you like and something that will work for you. It's just gonna take some time. And so hopefully this video will help narrow it down for you. So here's something, just kind of cute. You can pause, read, have a chuckle, and go, oh, Melissa, you're so funny. And then we'll go on our merry way. Just to note, like, we just ordered our curriculum the other week, and I'm super excited. It's like Christmas when it comes. I love unpacking it all and getting all the, shrink wrap off the books. And my kids are like, but I love it. So homeschooling's getting pretty serious around here right about now. Okay. Methods of homeschooling. So you're going to hear a lot of these terms thrown around when you're looking at curriculum. People are going to be like, oh, do you want classical? Do you want Charlotte Mason? There's Montessori, there's unschooling, schooling at home, unistudies, eclectic, and more. Like, there's so many. It can be a little overwhelming, and you can be like, I don't know what any of those words mean. I'm not going to go into that because that would make this video really, really long, but I'm going to link this link in the comments, but you can go here and it kind of gives a basic description of all those different types of homeschooling styles. So basically, that's what they are. They're just styles. The content is going to be pretty much the same. Like, all your curriculums are going to have like language arts. They're all going to have science. They're all going to have history. They're all going to have math. It's just the way that they're presented or the, educational methodologies behind it. Like Charlotte Mason is a little bit more hands-on. Classical has a lot more, like obviously classical stuff and more memorization. Unschooling is a little bit more student-led. Montessori is student-led as well. So it's just the style in which the information is presented And this kind of ties into your personality. Like maybe you want something like super structured, you know, so that might help you lean towards a specific style of curriculum. Maybe you know, are really like, you know, wanting to be more hands-on and, you know, more outside or nature-led or student-led. That might lean you another way as well. So go to this link, you can read about them, and maybe that will help you in your search to find what kind of curriculum you want to find. Okay. And this little quiz I'll also link as well. It's just a quiz that kind of, you know, it's one of those like, what kind of homeschooler are you? And you can take this little quiz and, you know, it's just for fun, but it also kind of helps you kind of pinpoint which style you would lean towards. Okay, so when considering curriculum, there's some things that you obviously need to think about. Your child's learning style. Now, I would say that this actually comes second, because I'd say your teaching style comes first, because again, if you are excited about it and you're comfortable with it, you're going to be able to present it a lot better. Then as you're teaching, you're going to be able to fine tune towards what your kiddo needs. So your teaching style, you need to consider that. What are you comfortable with? Would you be more comfortable just having a script and like reading, you know, what you need to teach? Guess what? There's curriculums like that. Do you want it to be more exploratory and more hands-on? There's curriculum like that. So find your teaching style, kind of figure out like what you're comfortable with. Your child's learning style, you're going to discover that along the way. Here's the thing. You're not going to, you might not know these things right off the bat. That's okay. You're going to discover that this year. We've all had to go through this journey and kind of figure out like, how do I like to teach? What is my kid, you know, how do they like to learn? You're going to discover that. And so just remember that nothing is forever. Like if you pick a curriculum, you're like, oh, this isn't working. It's okay to tweak it. You're allowed to. You have that freedom. That's the beauty of homeschooling, is you have all this flexibility. Some other things to consider are the academic level. Now, again, this flexibility in homeschooling, this is amazing, because there's like a common joke among homeschooler kids, like, they're like, oh, what grade are you in? And my kids are always like, I don't know, because they're doing, you know, work in, you know, they might be 6th grade according to public school, but they're doing like 8th grade math, but maybe like 5th grade language arts. You really get to tailor it to their needs. So if they are ahead in math, you can continue to push them to like, you know, do more, learn more, go run with the numbers. But if they're struggling with language arts, you're able to kind of spend more time with that and maybe go a level down to kind of catch them up on some concepts that maybe they're struggling with or that they missed. So you can tailor your curriculum to those things. And most curriculums have placement tests, so you can kind of see like what grade level that you would want to get. And here's the thing too, like curriculums, it's not the same all the way across. You know, like one curriculum, your kid might score like in the 5th grade level, but maybe it'd be a 4th grade in a different one. It doesn't mean really anything. It's just the content that they're going to be learning. And we don't even pay attention to really grade level. I'm like, I want my kids to learn where they're at, and then we can grow from there. Another thing to consider is faith-based versus secular. You might be you know, a religious family and you want a curriculum that represents those values. There's lots of those. You might want to be, you might be a secular homeschool family, and there are definitely curriculums that cater to that. I will say for both those groups though, don't discount the other. There is great curriculum on both ends of the spectrum. So don't discount something just because it's secular. Like there's some really great math programs out there or language art programs out there that are secular based. There's some really great faith-based programs out there that as a secular homeschooler, you might want to consider. You know, you can omit what you're uncomfortable with, but there's some really great curriculum out there as well that is faith-based centered. So don't discount something just because it's faith-based or secular, but that, you know, might be something that is important to you. So you can do Google searches based on that. You can look at your child's interests. So there are like unit studies or themed-based curriculums. We did a curriculum last year that was all about world geography, and my kids loved it. You know, we did like cooking around the world, we did fashion around the world, we did, you know, biomes around the world, and so everything was one thematic, and it all kind of tied together, but it also really tied into my kids' particular interests. You want to consider your involvement. There are some really hands-on homeschool curriculums that are going to require a lot of your time and attention, and your, you know, prep, and, you know, you're standing there reading, or you're, you know, sitting by your kid doing the work with them. There's also more hands-off curriculum. A lot of times those are more like the online options. And so you need to consider your involvement, what your time looks like. If you are a parent that's working at home, you might want to look at those online options. There's like a Beckett Academy, there's Liberty University, There's Time for Learning, things like that. You know, there's other online schools as well, so you might want to consider those things. Budget. This is a huge concern for several families. Homeschooling curriculum can get a little expensive, but you can actually homeschool on the cheap. The library is an incredible resource. There's so many great things on the internet, so many great resources on the internet. We have our local bookstore, Tidal Wave, that sells used curriculum. We also have the Home Education Resource Center, which you can get a membership to. I think it's like $20 a year. And you can borrow curriculum for an entire year from there, so you can try it before you buy it. There's buy-sell trade groups on Facebook. There's several Facebook homeschool groups where you can say, hey, I'm looking for this curriculum. Does anyone have it? I mean, there are some really amazing options to get homeschool material on the cheap if that is a concern for you. So, you know, use those resources. And at the end, I'll have like a little page that shows you some resources as well where you can get curriculum. Check out those reviews. Ask your friends. Look at the Google reviews. You know, again, take those things with a grain of salt because of those people's personal experiences, and that's what works for them, but it might give you some insight into how the curriculum works. And then look at the samples. Almost all the curriculum sites have samples that you can download and print out and see what the material looks like. And so you have an idea of what it's going to look like before you buy it. So do that. Okay, let's go over some homeschool jargon, because as you're doing your research and you're looking at curriculum, you might hear some things and you're like, what does that mean? So spiral learning. That just means that a topic or a skill is going to be touched on several times over the year. So the curriculum that we use does that, like every 4 or 5 years, it kind of repeats. But then as the kids get older, it goes a little bit more in depth. And so, you know, it spirals. There's several curriculums that are like that. Scope and sequence is just basically the ideas and like the order that concepts are introduced. And so here's the thing, okay? Scope and sequence is going to be different for every curriculum, but the same things are going to be covered. Like math is math, like 1 + 1 is going to be 2, no matter which curriculum you get. Just the order in which these things are presented might be different. So, you know, I don't really worry too much about that one. Okay, multi-level curriculum. This allows parents to combine kids of multiple age groups together. So like for my family, my kids are about, you know, 1.5 years, 2 years apart, all of them. So we use multi-level curriculum. This has been great for us because I can teach as much as possible together, and then I can do the separate things that we need to, like math and language arts, separately. And so this is a great curriculum option if you have multiple children and you're just like, how am I going to teach them all? Multi-level curriculum is your answer. Unit studies, like what I talked about, we did like this world geography curriculum, and everything was tied into science, the literature, the, you know, social studies aspect. So it's studies and curriculum that is based on a theme to cover multiple school subjects. So if you have a kid that's really interested in like ancient history, you can find a curriculum that kind of covers all of that, you know, and they'll be learning about Egypt, and then, you know, the science can be like, you know, simple machines and things that the Egyptians use, and, you know, you can do like geography and things like that. So if you have a kid that's really interested in a particular topic, unit studies is a great way to go. You're gonna hear about different learning styles. This just describes the way a student prefers to learn, like visual, auditory, kinesthetic, you know, and you're gonna learn these things as you go through your homeschooling journey, how your kiddo learns best. Copy work, there's a lot of curriculum that's heavy on copy work. It's just a method of handwriting and spelling where they copy sections from literature or, you know, the textbooks or whatever, and they just write it down. And that helps, you know, you kind of get your handwriting in and some comprehension and stuff like that way. Living books, I love living books. They are books that bring learning to life through powerful story or description. So basically they're like chapter books. They're books that you read. And so it's a way to teach a subject out of, like, instead of a textbook, you would use a living book. So for example, we learned about the Industrial Revolution the other year, and we read a book called Liddy that was about a young factory girl worker. And so we learned about the Industrial Revolution, not through a textbook, but through a living book, and it gave us, you know, the lesson through that instead. So living books is a great way, like if your kid's not a textbook learner, this is a great option for you. And there's several living book curriculums, like Bookshark is a literacy-based curriculum, I believe, and Sunlight, they do a lot of literature. My Father's World, they do a lot of literature as well. Narration is just a method in which children orally summarize something that's been read to them. So it's a way to work on comprehension, handwriting, spelling, you know, punctuation, all that stuff. You'll say it aloud and then they copy it. And there's some curriculums that use that method as well. Okay, Types of curriculum. So there's some basic, box curriculums that kind of come with everything, right? So these are going to be like your Rebecca, your Bob Jones, your Sunlight, your Bookshark, all that, like everything kind of comes together. And so this is a great option for if you just like don't know where to start and you just like, I just need curriculum. This will kind of have everything that you need. Box curriculums typically do run to be more expensive. They're a little bit more expensive because they do have everything. And a lot of times they are more workbook based. So if that is something that you're interested in, let's check out box curriculums, kind of has everything. Eclectic curriculum is kind of like where you're picking and choosing. Like maybe you're picking your science from over here and you're picking your math from over here. This can often be done cheaper because you can buy used and you're picking and choosing what you want, but it will take a little bit more work up front, and maybe you won't have like that cohesive like lesson plan where everything's like laid out for you. I've become more eclectic as we've gone on. I started out, I was like, I want to be told exactly what to do. And now I'm just kind of like, oh, this looks like fun. Oh, let's try this. And so as you become more comfortable and more familiar with the materials out there and the resources available, I've become more eclectic. There's online options where, like there's Time for Learning, there's like a Becca Academy, there's like Liberty, there's, different things like that. And those are just, those online homeschool options. And then there's Public School at Home. Those are like your Connections Academy, your E-Academy, your K-12. Those are different than homeschooling because you're not notifying the state. You're not required to do like the legalities. You're schooling at home, but it's not considered homeschooling because you're still part of the public school system and you're doing it through a charter school. So, you're not doing the notification form and all that stuff. You're still at home schooling, but it's just kind of categorized a little bit differently. So those are the main types of curriculums that you're going to find and that you're going to want to look for. And based on what your needs are, based on what your comfort level is, based on your time commitment and your budget and all that stuff, those are the basic things that you're going to be looking at as those types of curriculums. Okay, so where do you buy all this curriculum? These are just some places that you can get stuff. Amazon obviously has everything. You can find a lot of curriculum on there. Christian Book has a ton of stuff. I find that they typically run cheaper than Amazon, and they usually have like a free shipping code. Rainbow Resource Center also has a ton of homeschooling curriculum. Homeschool Buyers Co-op, Teacher Pay Teacher, I use all the time. Like if we're doing like a thematic unit or I'm looking for a resource that goes along with a book that we're reading or maybe a concept that we're having trouble with, I go to Teachers Pay Teacher and I can download something, have it that day, and it's done. Facebook, like I said, the buy-sell trade groups, homeschool groups, Tidal Wave Books, our local bookstore, Homeschool Share, the Home Education Resource Center at Grace Baptist. And then if you are wanting to know more about homeschool curriculum, trying to figure out, like which one do I want to choose? Kathy Duffy Reviews is great too. You can go there and she has reviewed like, I think every homeschooling curriculum that has ever existed. And you can kind of see the reviews there and learn more about what those are. So I know it's a lot. I talked fast and we went through a lot. It's overwhelming, right? But you guys, we got this. So if you have questions, drop them in the comments, message Sarah and I. We will try our best to help you navigate this. Reach out in those homeschool groups and ask like, hey, I'm really interested in like this curriculum. Has anyone, used it for? Are you willing to let me look at it? Go to the Home Education Resource Center where you can try it before you buy it. There's so many options, guys. And we're trying really hard not to like suggest particular curriculums because again, every homeschooler is passionate about their curriculum and they think theirs is the best. And that's because, why? Because that's what they have found that works for them. So this is really going to be about you guys, discovering what you love, discovering how you want to teach, discovering the experience that you guys want to have. And so we don't want to taint that necessarily with like, oh yeah, like this is what, this is what we use and our kids are like incredible because of it. Our kids are incredible because they're incredible kids. And here's the thing, guys, I want to leave you with this encouragement. You're not going to mess your kids up, right? They're going to be learning no matter what. And even if you stumble through a lesson and you're like, this is terrible, I hate it, guess what? They're going to learn. They're going to learn how to deal with the bad days. They're going to learn how to deal with like frustration. They're going to learn how to deal with, hard stuff. That is learning. You guys are living together. You are learning together. So don't discount all that other stuff. Yes, curriculum is important, but you're going to be learning through so many different things. Like learning doesn't just happen out of a textbook. It happens when you go on those nature walks and you you know, see a weird bug and you look it up and, you know, you draw a picture of it. Learning happens when you're, you know, baking cookies in the kitchen and you're, you know, learning about measurements and you're talking about, you know, how your grandma, you know, taught you this recipe when you were little. Learning happens when you're watching documentaries and, you know, about, I don't know, ladybugs or, you know, whatever. Learning is going to be happening all throughout the day. It's not going to just be happening at the kitchen table, and it's not going to just be happening when you have your textbook open. So guys, you got this. You can do this. The homies got your back, and we're gonna do this together. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it helps. And again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. We got your back, homies. All right, we'll talk to you later. Bye.